Caffé Nero has 760 stores in the UK across the brands of Nero, Coffee One, Aroma Coffee and Harris & Hoole, which a lot of people didn't know. And my guest today, Matt Spencer, has been with Caffé Nero for 18 years. And as their commercial director, there's nothing he doesn't know about pulling a shot. I think that's the right terminology. Matt is responsible for in-store trading plans, supply chains, pricing and sustainability programs in the UK, which isn't a simple feat at all when you've got 4 brands, hundreds of stores and customers with changing tastes and preferences. Our focus of this episode of Climate Heroes is to learn from the challenges of running multi-site businesses and how new recycling legislation might impact operations and on your sustainability goals. So Matt, it's a huge pleasure to welcome you to First Mile's Climate Heroes.
Well, thank you very much, Bruce. I'm very honoured to be here.
Excellent. And we've worked together for a long time now. I mean, no idea. I mean, 18 years is a good old stint Caffé Nero, almost as long as I've done at First Mile. And it's been great always to work with Nero, and a fantastic company to work for. And finally getting you on the podcast, which is great. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, great.
So tell us, how did you, have I got the right terminology in terms of pulling a shot? I might have made some terrible coffee faux pas.
No,
how did you get involved in the world of coffee, which has been phenomenal growth in Nero and your competitors as well over the last 18, 20 years?
Yeah, okay. So as you say, I started with Nero, it was back in 2006. And it was a kind of came full circle because during my career I worked in retail and I worked in grocery retail. And my first job in grocery retail was actually as coffee buyer for Sainsbury's. So it almost felt like destiny when the Caffé Nero opportunity came up. Yeah. So I'd come from grocery through their different grocery departments. Yeah, this opportunity came up and it was just absolutely too good to miss.
And I imagine back then, buying coffee from Sainsbury's, was it very heavily influenced towards, a bit of French press, cafetiere, and mainly instant coffee? And
yeah, back in those days, there was less coffee knowledge out there.
Yeah.
I remember having coffee brands come to me saying we run a series of stores. We should be selling products on your shelves. But at that time, Sainsbury's was actually the largest coffee brand. Yeah. Its own label brand at the time. That might have changed by now.
Yeah.
But it was about sort of building coffee knowledge. It was just a sort of burgeoning of cafe culture in the UK.
Yeah. And were you sent off to the plantations back in the Sainsbury's day? I mean, have you travelled the world looking at coffee plantations?
I think everyone has the man from Del Monte type imagery in their mind, but it's never quite as glamorous as that. We have someone who actually does have a large white hat, who does travel around, but he's our coffee purchaser. Yeah. But certainly that wasn't the case when I was at Sainsbury's, unfortunately.
Didn't quite make it. And what's changed in Nero then for you over 18 years? I mean, has it been very much a slow progression, or have you had some sort of big step changes as you've moved through the company?
Wow! So big step changes we've experienced. So taking the business private again. Mm-hmm. So when I joined the business, it was a public company. Yeah. But our founder took the business back private again. The sort of growth curve we've seen since then, we've had various kind of bumps in the road, but great opportunities as well. We took the business international. Yeah. So we now operate in 10 territories around the world, over 1,000 stores now. Wow. Everyone experienced the challenges around COVID. Yeah. At times our stores were actually closed, putting people on furlough and all those sort of terrible times that everyone experienced. Supply chain disruption, I personally had to sort of administer and manage our way through. But it's been a positive growth for the brand over the years because we're stuck true to what we started. Yeah.
And where's the biggest market outside the UK now?
Outside the UK, it will be Turkey in terms of store numbers. Right, yeah, so just short of 100 stores in Turkey.
And is that somewhere you targeted, or is that somewhere that the brand naturally took off and it sort of worked well in that territory?
I don't think, there's a lot of work that goes into selecting the territories. Yeah. You've got to understand the coffee culture that exists there, the types of cafes that exist, how brands gone there and succeeded or indeed failed. Yeah. What can you learn from that? There's plenty of opportunities to take your brand around the world, but you have to do it carefully in a considered way, often with local knowledge as well. So who might you be working with in that local area to make your brand a success?
Yeah. And when you're managing supply chains and responsible for sustainability and sort of the operations of a store, ideally you have one product and one brand, but actually you've got a growing range of things that you're selling in the stores, and you're having to manage 4 brands as well. And quite often people, the Nero brand is very strong, but then the Nero group is actually owning another 3 brands that are strong in their own right, but a sort of different sort of perspective. Why haven't you sort of bought these other groups, not bigger groups, these other groups groups and just branded them as Nero? Why have you kept those separate brands of Coffee One, Aroma, and
Yeah, so each brand has its own distinct identity, and we absolutely want to keep those identities because it allows us to. There isn't a town anywhere where you'll see all three of the cafe brands on the same high street as such, but each one has its own distinct identity. Certainly, sort of behind the scenes, things like supply chain, you'd look to get the sort of scale benefits of operating such a business, but we're absolutely keen that the customer facing brand identity remains independent of each other and distinct.
But you're trying to make as many synergies as you can behind the scene, and presumably that as well. And do you think customers are asking more questions around sort of sustainability and the planet and green issues now than they were 18 years ago?
Absolutely. I mean, it's impacting people's lives now more than ever, be it through the prices that they pay for certain things, which may not be as freely as available due to weather impact. The impact on the actual climate, the weather, places they may be travelling, etc., the temperature, the rainfall. It's becoming an ever more, I guess, present issue in people's lives.
And I've read some things, I think, in the past, because I know that olive oil has shot up in price at the moment, but I think there's been issues with coffee bean. We sort of thought we were going to run out of coffee or run out of chocolate and things like this in the past. Is that something that's sort of at risk in terms of where we're growing coffee? Is there a chance that coffee prices will go up a lot? Is there a chance that we're going to not have coffee in the future, or do you think it's just going to move where we grow it?
I think any business that works with agricultural products, subject to the vagaries of climate, needs to be aware of the impact it's having. It's supply and demand, isn't it, in the basic economics of such. So yes, there have been some challenges around harvest, etc., in different parts of the world. The long-term outlook, I'm not sure what that looks like. But as any brand, you need to be aware of the impacts of these changes on your long-term business.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the big changes that's happened in stores, which I've always had black coffee, so I've never been that aware to it, and it may, you can tell me it's always been there, but it seems like there's been a big shift towards plant-based milks over the last, when did that sort of start to come in?
It's always been there as I guess, an undercurrent. It's always been there, but I'd say in the last 5 years, and particularly in the last 2 or 3, there's been a real acceleration in terms of the proportion of products that we sell, which are plant-based. But that's both as dairy alternatives or indeed meat-free.
The final question really on the sort of the cafe culture of Nero is, the thing that I've always liked about Nero going in is that you have the old Italian espresso machines with the thing, whatever it's called.
Group head.
What's it called? Brew head.
Group head, The handle.
The handle. Has there been pressure in the business to move to automatic machines? Are you always going to stay to the sort of manual machines? Are they a complete headache?
It's part of our DNA. We're not a push-button, automatic, machine-driven business. We'll let others do that.
Is that a real pain? Are they harder to maintain, slower to serve customers, more difficult, or other? If you can know how to drive one, they're okay.
I think it's that, in that it's part of what we are. So we work hard to maintain these, the centerpiece of the store, aren't they, in terms of what we do. So we look after them. We teach our store teams to nurture them and look after them as well, because it is part of what we do. We won't go to automatic push button in our cafes.
No, I mean, they always have that centerpiece as well. Absolutely. And are they all made in Italy still? I mean, generally that industry, so they're all sort of Italian machine. And, amazing. Which I guess brings us on to, I was going to talk about this later, we'll talk about it now, in terms of driving those machines. You're Barista of the Year, which we were lucky enough to sponsor this year.
Yes, thank you.
Tell us a little bit about that, because it's like one of the maddest things that we've ever been to. James and I went. We couldn't get into the store for the Barista of the Year. So have you been running that since day one? Yeah,
we have, and it really is again part of that sort of DNA that runs through the business in terms of coffee centricity, a sense of family, a sense of occasion that we get from that, and it brings the teams together. So each store puts forward competitor, if you will, a contestant. They go into like regional area and regional heats. They're quite fun events as well, because store colleagues come along. Often there's elements of fancy dress going on and themes and such like. They're supported, and they go forward then to the national, which you were able to attend, and thank you for your support with that. And I describe it as fun and noisy.
It was very noisy.
It's a way to, and very colourful as well in terms of what we do there. But, at the core of it, there's a seriousness around the coffee that is made, and everyone's asked to make 3 different types of coffee, strictly judged by our coffee team. I was actually put forward by my own department, and I took the mantle for the Neal Street head office barista of the year. I didn't win.
I was going to say, how far did you get through?
Did I bother the podium? I don't think I did. God loves a trier. Yeah. So each of the finalists then gets to, once you get through to the national final, if you will, they get to go to Milan to immerse themselves in coffee culture there. Yeah. And the winner, who this time was a lady called Martina from our Belfast Europa store, she'll go forward to the international Barista of the Year, so with our international colleagues.
Brilliant.
That's in November time. Yeah. And there's an extra layer to that, if you will, where each contestant's asked to bring forward their own take on a coffee drink. So they bring their own personality. It could be flavour, it could be theatre. Right. We've seen all sorts of amazing...
So it's like a freestyle category.
A little bit of freestyle category. So it's real creativity and real fun.
And what are the 3 coffees you have to make out of interest there? Because they must be sort of almost like it's sort of the creme brulee of the sort of coffee world.
Yes, you've got to be able to make a great espresso, which is all about the tamp, the timing, the crema, all the sort of elements of a great espresso. A flat white, because the creaminess and silkiness of the milk. And the ratio, again, a magic ratio between the coffee and the milk. Yeah. And a cappuccino as well, which is different again to a flat white.
Is flat white a new thing? Because we've had cappuccinos and espressos since the beginning of time, but has flat white always been in sort of Italian culture, but it's only come across here quite recently, or is it?
No, it's more of an Antipodean source product, and it's come into the coffee culture in the last 10 years, certainly in the UK. Yeah. If you go to Italy and ask for a flat white, I think you'd be chased out of the country, quite frankly. Indeed, if you ask for a cappuccino at any time other than breakfast, they look at you quite strangely as well. But that is just the ingrained coffee culture. In Italy.
It's the way of going. Fascinating stuff. I mean, it really is. And then I suppose going to the other spectrum of that sort of the Italian cafe culture, there has been quite a lot of adoption of US style of drinking in the UK, big sort of long drinks, vending. I think you've got a drive-through at Stansted Airport.
Our first
now,
one,
have you now? So is the pressure around will you go to vending machines in garages, more drive-throughs, sort of more takeout, sort of, is that sort of stuff that's heading our way?
I think, as a brand, what we keep right at the core is that important premium nature of what we're trying to do. Yeah. So as customer tastes change, and they are changing in terms of where our customers now, there's a lot of you'll see outlets opening on roadside, so drive-through and drive-to is what I call as well. But whenever we're going to go into that type of operation, it's still got to have that Caffé Nero experience, that Caffé Nero premiumness to it. We'll take a look at what other people have done, how we might do it better, how do we still keep that core strand going through everything that we do. Yeah,
which would be quite hard to get with a vending machine, I suppose, unless you could do the thing yourself.
Yes.
Brilliant. And this is one of my favourite questions I've been wanting to ask, is what's the best seller across all your brands, the whole country? What's the thing you sell the most of in terms of type of coffee?
The type of coffee that sells the most, we sell about a quarter of all the coffees we sell are a version of a latte. Right. By size, or indeed including plant-based milk. Yeah. So an increasing level of sales on iced lattes as the weather gets warmer. But it's also now part of people's almost portfolio of drinks that they drink. Some people just drink an iced latte as their sort of core coffee. Yeah. And that's absolutely fine. So at Caffé Nero, we've just launched a new range of iced drinks for the summer, coffee base, a take on a classic Americano, but it's a velvet Americano, which you can have plain or you can have with flavour. Yeah. And the different brands are all sort of operating in that coffee space, providing those different options for customers. If you go across to food, our best-selling product in Caffé Nero is our freshly baked pastries. Yeah. Fantastic product from we source from France, long-standing supplier relationship there. Yeah. And we've just launched an Italian maritozzi bun, which is now shot to the top of our sweet sales. So it's like a cream bun, very Italian, fantastic product, and we're super pleased to have the customer take up on it as well.
Get one of those.
Yeah, I would. Yeah.
And what's your favourite drink?
My favourite drink, it's an oat flat white. I've had 3, I think, already today.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. Getting time for the podcast. Very good. So just sort of moving back from the sort of the front of store, you're very operationally focused in it. What's the biggest challenge to keep all these stores running?
Yeah. I'd say keeping it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, because anything we do that distracts our teams from providing that great customer service, friendly customer service at pace is bad. Yeah. Quite frankly, constantly looking at how we can distill things down to the simplest possible notion such that it can be done well and quickly.
And over and over again. Yeah. And then how does that filter into waste and recycling, which is usually more complicated than anyone wants it to be, and about to get more complicated, which we'll come to in a second. But I mean, where's the sort of, because I think a lot of people listening to this are interested in, you know, multi-site retailing, not just coffee, but where's the real headache for you?
Yeah, okay. Well, waste and recycling, I mean, it's an emotive subject. It's emotive and it's complex. From the emotive point of view, you know, we want to be, and as a multi-site retailer, anyone will want to be a good neighbour. Yeah. Yeah. So any instances where the waste isn't being collected, or you know, you may have pest issues, you know, all the things you'd associate with waste. Quite frankly, you want to be dealing with those, and you need a partner like First Mile who can help you with that. So the selection of the partner that you have for waste collection is vital when you're looking at multi-site operations, such there's a quick response time in case you will have issues, but much as you'd have a great food supplier or a good food distributor or such, you need a good partner to select to help with that. When it goes across to the recycling piece, we'll come on to the legislation, no doubt, but again, it's keeping it simple. Keeping it simple for the store teams, keeping it simple for the customers as well, because we all have a role to play in this. There's one thing to provide the facilities, but our customers really interacting and using the facilities correctly, such that you get those separated waste streams that you're looking for.
First Mile is the UK's leading recycling company, and we help over 30,000 businesses recycle to reduce their carbon impact. Go to our website, thefirstmile.co.uk, to get started today. If you're enjoying this episode, please subscribe and follow us on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. So Matt, that's super interesting on the sort of you need a partner who's going to turn up, take it away, but keeping it simple and keeping it really simple in store. And you know, everyone's been into a Caffé Nero. When it's busy, it's really busy. Staff are focused on serving customers with great coffee. How on earth are we going to keep it simple with this ironically called simpler recycling, which I'm assuming it's going to be anything but simpler for you and the teams. We're expecting it in April next year. Simpler recycling is going to be mandatory food waste recycling. The recycling streams are going to have a couple of additional items in that will affect Nero and other coffee stores, which is cartons, which plant-based milks come in, and flexi-plastics, so a more sort of comprehensive set of things to be recycled. So how's that all gonna sit with the stores, do you think? I mean, I'm not expecting a definitive answer at the moment, because we don't exactly know how it's going to work. And then after we've talked about that bit, I'm going to come on to packaging, extended producer responsibility, deposit return schemes, and coffee cups. So that's as if that wasn't complicated enough. There's even more to come as well. So how's the simpler recycling sort of sit with you and plans around that?
I think my tip I'd give to anyone listening to this is get ahead of it, which is food waste recycling, food waste collections has been on the horizon for some time. And actually we've been working with yourselves, and now we've rolled it out to all our stores across the UK, which is about coffee grounds recycling. The chief component of our food waste isn't actually food, it's actually coffee grounds. With some food as well. For different brands, like with kitchen-based operations, etc., you'll get a lot more what you deem food waste. But without any of these things, the key is to get ahead of it. If you can form informal peer group relationships with sometimes someone you might consider a competitor, because we're all in this together. So learn from each other, get ahead of the legislation, and so now in the instance of food, we have rolled that out to all our stores now. So we're ahead on that one. In terms of cartons, we're trialling, piggybacking the operation that we've got with paper cups. Flexi plastics, don't know yet. But again, we'll look to seek to keep it as simple as possible.
And we do actually have a bit more time on flexi plastics. We've got another year. So
yes, exactly. And it's interesting, flexi plastics, because it's only just recently that even in the household, arena, you can, we collect ours and take it down to our local supermarket every Saturday.
Yeah.
And 2-3 years ago, that was just not the case.
Yeah.
So I think the increasing awareness helps out there in the wider community. But yeah, it's never. It's quite an ironic title, isn't it? Simple recycling. You're like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the coffee grounds are really interesting because, we work with, you pioneered the coffee grounds collections and recycling. It's naturally segregated because it comes out in a knocking drawer.
Exactly.
It's there. It can be taken away. It's the majority part of what you're doing because you don't do, in most stores, food preparation on site, which is great because it's like, advice to listeners is go for the highest proportion. Don't worry about recycling something you haven't got much of. Yeah. We don't know yet, but if there is a push towards saying, well, you have to have a food recycling bin available to customers front of store, do you think that's going to cause a problem in terms of space, contamination, these sorts of things? It's quite hard to know yet what we're going to expect.
It's quite hard to know, and then you start getting into the realms of is the expectation now that customers are going to clear their own tables, whereas we're typically clearing for them as well. So that sort of begs the question around the facilities you'll also have to put in. So I think it remains to be seen how it transpires, and I think whatever solution is looked to be implemented, it has to be pragmatic. And to be fair, as we've been working with other brands, we've been talking to various administrations over the years, we're able to come to hopefully ever increasingly pragmatic solutions that get to the result without causing absolute chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you'd be very much, certainly our experience working here, it's about the practicalities of it first, rather than, some massive sort of futuristic aspirational goal, which actually you can't get step one to it because it doesn't work in the store. So I think that's key. And then moving on to coffee cups then, actually going back to food waste, the other thing which, again, you've been an early adopter of is Too Good To Go, which is the app for, not throwing food waste away in the first place. So do you want to talk about that and how that's gone? Yeah,
so it's gone really, really well. So we've been working with Too Good To Go now since 2019.
Right.
And we've been able to produce, if that's the right word, some approaching 500,000 bags of food, which avoids them going into the waste streams, but even for recycling or whatever. So we're super proud of what we've been able to do there, and the association and partnership we've driven with Too Good To Go. We're starting to roll that out across our international territories as well, and we're always open to working with organisations such as Too Good To Go to understand what can be done. Yeah. Because if you go back 10 years, this kind of dialogue just wasn't happening. We continue to support that. Yeah. Our stores are really behind this as well, because if you think about the audience there, you're talking primarily younger people working in stores who are in general more kind of climate environmentally aware than some of the older generations. So in terms of an audience, it's very receptive to these kinds of things.
Yeah. And it's a great way of introducing new customers to the stores as well.
Absolutely,
they're called surprise bags, but they might have changed the name recently, the Too Good To Go bags. But I think, that's a great initiative, and we're very supportive of that, because people say to me, why would you want to promote that? Because it's less waste for you to take away. And I'm like, we're in this for the planet. And if I never saw any food waste, I'd be delighted, because it's difficult to deal with. So if it can be diverted to mouths ahead of us seeing it, I think it's a great initiative. And do you work with any of because obviously what you're trying to do is sell the food at a discounted price through Too Good To Go, but then have you got another step in any of the stores with people like Olio or Felix Kitchen where it's sort of given away, or do you get most of it out through Too Good To Go?
Right now, it's primarily the relationship. Yeah. However, we do target each of our stores with a financial KPI around waste, as in food and ingredient waste. So they are targeted with minimising that in the first instance. Yeah. So there's, again, it feels counterintuitive to be supporting Too Good To Go, but there's the financial imperative at the very get-go. You follow the waste hierarchy. It's like, reduce. Yeah. So don't put so much in that you cause food waste in the first instance. So.
Exactly, and it's that one. Once again, an economic proxy is very close to an environmental one, because actually, if you just wasting a load of food and producing too much and throwing it away, then it's bad for the business, bad for the planet. Yeah. So absolutely. Exactly. But that's a great initiative, and it's just that diverting to mouths before it ever gets near us is great from our perspective. So we get onto the lovely subject of coffee cups. We in the UK, I think we use 7 million coffee cups a day, probably out of date mine now. Before we get into dealing with what we do about coffee cups and the new legislation coming in, two things I want to talk about. You work with Keep Cup on a reusable, refillable cup, I think, unless that's changed. You can tell me if it has. Also, I think that sort of Caffé Nero Italian culture, actually, you quite often get people drinking in store. You've got this amazing thing called a range of china, which is great for people to drink out of and wash up, which isn't always the case in some coffee stores where you go in and ask to drink in and you get a paper cup anyway. Is that something that, do you feel like you're ahead in terms of, do you have more china than your contemporaries, do you think? Do people tend to like it?
It's about customer tastes and the way that customers choose to experience your brand. And some brands, including Coffee Number One, for example, they have a higher bias towards sit-in or drink-in customer. That's just the position of that brand. However, we'd always want people to come in and experience the Caffé Nero friendly atmosphere, but if you choose to take it away, then we always encourage the use of a reusable cup. I think that it's stubbornly quite low take-up, and that's not just an issue, I would say, for a challenge for Caffé Nero. I think it's across the piece, because it's about forming the habit as a consumer, as a customer, to have that habit. Because you need to take your reusable cup out for your hot drinks. You might want your empty bottle for your water. So how many different receptacles are you taking, etc. So, but it's about helping customers form that habit. We, like other brands, incentivize customers to use their reusable cups. We offer an extra reward stamp, a loyalty stamp for them. Others may offer a discount, price discount. But it's all about customer take-up of these things.
Yeah, absolutely. The problem with the coffee cup manufacturers is they've made the product so good, actually. You know, if it leaked a bit or the lid never stayed on, then people would probably have a higher propensity to bring in a reusable cup.
I mean, look, the takeaway cups, as existed in our brand and in others, they're there to do a job. When the coffee's hot, it's to a degree it's acidic, it's quite aggressive, but the cups are recyclable, and that is, I'd like to dispel that myth in case that still exists. They are recyclable, but it's about making sure that you've got the facilities to collect them, segregate them, and send them for that recycling.
Absolutely. And so we're collecting nationally now for you from all of the Caffé Nero stores and the other brands. Tell us how that works, because we get coffee cups back that get restacked into old boxes, so you're reusing the boxes that the cups were delivered in. Right. How do you in the stores make sure, how does the cup get from the table in the store or back from the consumer returning it into the box? So you've got the table clearers doing it, or is there facilities for the customers to put the cups in?
Primarily it's what you'd call hand back. So we have signage around the store saying you can hand back bring it back to the store. It will take hours, indeed any brand, coffee cups, as every brand will do that as well, and we're part of that. What is then done, the barista, the store colleague puts that to one side, collects them, segregates them, pops them into the very bag, the very box that they came in, and then books a collection from your good selves to have them taken away. Very simple. So it works for us, and we get hundreds of those back a week, and it works really, really well. So and we've got that down to about a penny a cup. So it's not, it's an additional cost, but it's not, as high as it might be. And then the legislation coming in, it's going to we believe it's going to mandate any coffee organisation, company with more than 10, is it, I think? Or 5? It is, 10 employees, so I think you'll be in that category. And you have to offer a take-back facility for anyone to bring a coffee cup back to your premises. So I think, you're ahead of the curve in terms of that one. Do you think there's going to be any sort of financial mechanism in there as well, where you might need to pay for the amount of coffee cups you sell, and then you somehow need to put that money into a central pot of money to fund recycling? I guess it remains to be seen how that overlaps or not with EPR. I guess one of the things that has also been mooted is around front of house collection points. So a receptacle, a unit, if you will, for customers to place said coffee cups in. And to date, it's proven very, very, very difficult to educate customers to use the right slot, the right hole, if you will. And we continue to trial different solutions for that, in light of the fact that this may be coming in terms of legislation. However, we will continue with the hand back. Make sure that signage is clear and the messaging is there for our customers, both on the door but around the store as well, to understand that, okay, this is something that we offer. And I think as the legislation kicks in, if indeed it goes that way, obviously the awareness will jump, and therefore the number of boxes coming back to your good sales will go up.
And I think the handback really is, it couldn't be simpler, and the quality of the cups we're getting back is very good, because it's not sort of, everyone's been to the train station and seen the two.
You use it as a bin.
Plastic socks, and there's just all sorts of things in there.
Yeah.
So I think it's sort of sensible from a very pragmatic perspective. I guess the thing that I'm not sure the government have thought through yet is the fact that by virtue of it being a takeaway cup, it's not going to end up being in a coffee retailer. It's going to end up being somewhere else. And is there any discussions around in terms of how we think we're going to tackle I don't know what it is, probably 80% of the coffee cups that leave the store and end up back at home, in your car, on a train, in an office?
So there's terminology used about open and closed environments. So a closed environment might be a venue, a sports venue or such an arena where the purchase, consumption, and I guess the disposal of the packaging is all done in the same place. So arguably easier to put a solution in place that captures a very high proportion of that same materials, and they exist today. When it goes into more of an open environment, like into the high street, even a semi-open environment, the challenge will be about having those collection facilities available, clearly signposted, simply kind of messaged as well, such that customers can understand. We've all been confronted sometimes with the various chutes and slots and bins. And and you're looking at your product going, well, it's cardboard, isn't it? Yeah. So or different materials. So still to be answered, and there's lots of trials going on. We and other brands support citywide initiatives, and we have been doing over the years. We're seeking to learn the different interventions, different types of messaging that can prompt that segregation, that capture of the distinct waste streams as well.
Yeah, and just figuring out how we get more back, really, which is a real challenge on it. And then it's very early days, because it was only, I think, the 7th of April that the new legislation rolled out in Wales, which I'm not sure how many stores you've got in total in Wales. But they've sort of adapted a simpler recycling, but it's like less simple. I'm not going to say complex, with sort of more segregated streams. Has that been a challenge, or is it sort of rolled out okay so far?
So far, it's rolled out okay. I think, again, because for many of the waste streams, we were ahead of the curve anyway. And as I said earlier on, any key piece of advice I give to anyone is get ahead of it. Try and do the thinking now before it becomes, right, next week you've got to land this in your unit. Talk to your waste partners, because they're experts in this field. You and others have helped us with this thinking. And that's so far it's rolled out.
So far it's not too
relatively seamlessly.
So it's time for our First Mile Hall of Fame. Matt, we ask our esteemed guests on Climate Heroes to leave something, someone, or a thought in our Climate Heroes Hall of Fame, and then at some point in the future we're going to have a look in it and see what's there. We've had all sorts of weird and wonderful things in there, and it's quite hot because someone's left the sun in there. So we've had everything from the sun to a bucket of worms. So over to you.
So my inspiration came from one of my bosses many years ago. So not a famous person, but in terms of the impact this person had on me, it was when I was a coffee buyer at Sainsbury's. He was my category manager, a chap called Jeffrey Baker. So if you're listening, Jeffrey, he did inspire me. And he said something to me which has stuck with me, and I say to other people, which is, don't underestimate the impact you now have on other people's lives. When you're a coffee buyer, or you're working for a retailer or an outlet or a multi-site retailer, you have hundreds of thousands of customers. In our instance, nearly 2 million a week coming into our stores. So little changes you can make have that kind of multiplier impact on people's lives, both now and in the future as well. So it's a little bit of, you have the ability to make a big difference. You may not understand that.
I love that. And it's almost like the little nudge that you can make each day, Fantastic. Great. Thank you. What was his name? Jeffrey Baker. Thank you, Jeffrey Baker. Brilliant. Matt, we ask our guests on First Month's Climate Heroes to recommend a book, a podcast, a movie, something that they are finding really inspirational at the moment around the climate, or it could be around something else. So have you brought something for us?
Yes, I have. It's a book I've recently read. I was lucky enough to go to a Peach conference on the environment recently, and Henry Dimbleby stood up. And I've recently read his book Ravenous, which is about the food industry and the impact it has on the world at large. And I would recommend anyone, both within the food industry and indeed outside of the food industry, to read this. It's a real eye opener and a call to arms. So it's one of those sort of milestone books you read.
Excellent. And it's Ravenous by Henry Dimbleby.
Yes.
Great. Fantastic. A couple of little things I want to talk about before we wrap up. The Black Deer Festival.
Yes.
I didn't know you did festivals. It's this weekend.
Is
that something you've always done, or is this taking basically the Nero experience to a festival and for the red-eyed campers in the morning? Is that the plan?
So we've been working with Black Deer for a few years now. And prior to that, we used to be at the Cornbury Festival. Why festivals? Well, music's always been part of that DNA of the business. When you go into any of our cafes, you'll hear the music, a curated song list, playlist, if you like, playing in our stores. We support new fledgling artists. So at these festivals, we've erected a Caffé Nero tent, so you can get great coffee and the Caffé Nero experience, albeit in a field. But in there, we'll have performances from artists that we're supporting. It's always been part of who we are as a business. So, if you're going to Black Deer this weekend, pop along to the Caffé Nero tent for great coffee and great music.
Perfect, fantastic. And my final question really is sort of a personal one, really, because I've got 3 dogs. You've always let dogs in stores. Is that why is that? Did the founder have a dog? Because it's not universal.
No, it's not universal. And yes, we welcome dogs, but well-behaved dogs under the control of an owner. I think that's a perfectly reasonable request of anyone who brings their dog into the stores.
And what's the worst behaved dog you've had in the store?
Oh, it's hard to say.
Probably one of mine.
I didn't want to say, Bruce.
Brilliant. Matt, it's been a huge pleasure having you on the show. Thank you very much for coming on the show. And really great insight into the huge company that is Nero now, and all about pulling shots and making coffee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bruce.